we want to show you how you can land your first client, how to put you in the position to land the first client in the US. We want to talk about three main things that's going to help you either win the first client or get more clients in the US. Prospecting, right? What really works, when it comes to you expanding in US, how to Americanize your value prop, how to really build the pipeline, what works, what maybe doesn't work that well. So let's talk about the preparation. This is very important. I do see too many companies trying to skip this step, and there are a few reasons why they want to do that. They may be successful in Serbia, they may be successful in Europe, and they make the transition in the US, and they're like, oh, we know our stuff. But a lot of times you have to kind of take a step back, and this is a whole new market, right, with a lot of new details, right? So you have to kind of reevaluate your value prop, and is it going to stand in US? Is it going to scale in US, right? So you got to go back to the drawing board and really understand what is the vertical, right? What is that industry? Are American industries and verticals having the same pain point, right? Regulation is a big thing. So I'm asking you to go back to the drawing board and really reevaluate. Do you have to pivot towards a different vertical or industry? Or the industry vertical that you determine in Europe and Serbia is going to actually scale in the US as well. There's 4 different time zones. There's 50 different states. If you call in New York, that's like if you're calling in Belgrade. People like fast. People like get to the point. But if you call in Texas, maybe that's a little bit more of a Novi Sad dynamic. People are, maybe they're going to say, we're sitting down for dinner. So you have to understand those intricacies. You have to understand those dynamics, and they're not set in stone, meaning they often change. So you have to reevaluate your value prop and making sure, okay, I have a value prop in Europe and Serbia. Do we have to make some changes and adjustments in the United States? I heard some pitches by Serbian companies. A lot of times what I'm seeing is a lot of information, but not really clear objective, right? Not very simple slogan. And sometimes they lack what we call to action. So when you go to your pitch, when you figure out what is your industry, what is your niche in US, figure out what is your objective, what kind of problem you're solving, and then maybe come up with a slogan that's going to follow your US strategy, right? You figured out what is your industry, what is your vertical. Okay, great, but it doesn't stop there. Who is actually the person that's going to sign that check? Who is actually buying within that organization? What is their title? Who do they report to? What is their organizational chart looking at? Most importantly, what is their pain, right? What is their problem? Like, let's say you're selling a product and you're selling to the CTO or CIO. You have to understand what is their pain. The best way to understand that is to ask them, right? So when you position your product, and we're going to go into the pitch, make sure that you show them how you eliminate the pain, but also show them how you're going to keep them happy. That is sales. But now it's time for you to build a pipeline, how to do that. And you have different options, right? There's always those phone calls. Those still work. I'm seeing a lot of people using LinkedIn campaigns, which are not bad. Email campaigns are still popular. People are still using email, although we're seeing some of the more sophisticated ways than just, doing a lot of email. These are still tools for you to start building that pipeline. Phone calls, LinkedIn campaigns, and email campaigns. It took me some time to wrap my head around what we call a channel. It's really partnerships and distribution. The most basic way of channel is you have outside consultant or outside company or outside person that refers you to a business, and you happily give them a fee. But eventually, if you're looking at, I want to be an enterprise company, you will have to have a sophisticated way to resell your product. And it goes beyond the referral fee. You do not want people just to, give you a referral. You want to spend some time to educate them how to sell your product. The more bandwidth they can take away from you, the more margin you can dedicate. Why? Because they're actually helping you with the customer acquisition cost. If you have really good resellers, phone call campaigns, email campaigns, maybe not going to be just as important. You're going to start concentrating more on the channel because you're going to see that your pipeline is getting built through your partners. It's a great way to build a pipeline. And maybe the quickest way that you can get to your first client, so referrals are great. Even better, if you have already clients, ask your clients, if they can refer you business. Customers are actually 4 times more likely to buy if they're coming from referrals. And then a lifetime value of the customer is 16% higher, and which brings to a lower churn rate, meaning the referrals are providing more value to you as a customer, and they're less likely to leave. So concentrate on those referrals and figure out how you can leverage them. So let's say you have a referral, you're ready to pitch to somebody, you have your pitch deck, you have a presentation, and don't just use the same presentation for every single client. Research the company, research the client. Figure out if you have to change, maybe a value prop, maybe a slide, maybe something that could be interesting to that particular person. Figure out who are those key stakeholders. A lot of times, and this happens in the US, I'm guilty of the same thing. We're doing a presentation, but I'm like, you know what? I did not do enough research. Who's going to be on this call? Who is this person? All of a sudden, it happens all the time. You have this Zoom call. It started with one person, but this person starts inviting 3 or 4 other people. Spend some time. Figure out who these people are. I already said in the previous presentations, Americans use LinkedIn. Chances are 95% of chance, if you have a first and last name, you will find that person on LinkedIn. Figure out, what is their role? Who do they report to? It's incredibly important when you do your presentation to know who's going to be on that call. And again, identify who is the buying persona. Who actually is going to sign the check? You have to know who actually has that executive power to get the things going for you. So you got to do that preparation before you do the pitch. So this is probably the most important slide that we want to talk about today, right? And let's start from the beginning, right? I've seen some companies from Serbia that transition in the US. They have a sales star in Serbia, and they feel that same person is going to be the sales star. They're going to close all the deals in the US. Reevaluate, is this the right person, right? Is this person, do they have a charisma that's going to translate into American buyer? Is their English proper enough? Is it good enough to present to American market? So figure out who's going to be presenting, and then again, who is the audience, right? You're preparing for your pitch. Whether you're asking for money, you have a meeting with a venture capitalist, or you're talking to a potential buyer, or maybe even potential strategic partner. You really got to understand who is in the audience. So the third bullet here, and if you want to remember anything from this presentation, I would definitely ask you to remember features versus benefits. So features versus benefits means, let's say you have a great SaaS product. You have a killer feature, right? Yes, you want to present that feature, but you really want to zero in on the benefit, right? What kind of value, what kind of problem that actually solves for the buyer? Yeah, we got this great feature. This is what it does, but this is how it's going to make your life easier. This is how much time it's going to save you. This is how much money it's going to save you. This is how it's going to help you expand your operations or automate your operations. So make sure that you understand the difference between features versus benefits. People want to have a discussion. When you're presenting, after each slide, what I like to do is, at the very least, ask a client, does this make sense? At the very best, I want to ask them, how was your experience? Have you done this in the past? What was your experience? What worked? What did not? They love those questions, and they're going to tell you. They're not going to be impressed if you just keep talking for 15 minutes. Selling, it's really not selling, when you think about it, you're really consulting. You want to get to that point. You're not pitching, you're solving problems, and you're not sales rep, you're not selling, you're consulting, you're removing friction, you're removing pain. So you have to adopt that mindset. You're presenting, and there's going to be objections, and you have to learn how to handle those, right? The rule of thumb is you always want to be honest. Sometimes I get stumped when they ask me a question. I don't know the answer. I would say, you know what, that's a little bit too technical for me. Let me check back with my engineer, and I'll circle back with you. That's totally fine. Way better than you kind of guessing or maybe telling them something inaccurate Don't bash competition. I learned from the seasoned professionals that in the long run, you do not want to bash competition. And sometimes it's going to be tempted. Why? Because your client, when you're presenting, they will say something. Oh, I'm so glad that you guys have this because company XYZ, they did not have that. We don't like them. And sometimes it's a bait. They want to see how you're going to react. And the best way to react, don't jump on that bandwagon and say, oh, yeah, they're terrible. And, they don't know anything. We are the best. It's a short-sighted answer. It's not professional. And, it does not make you look confident, actually. Quite the opposite. What you want to say, actually, they're a pretty good company. But I see your point, and the things that you need that they didn't deliver, we are actually very confident that we have a value proposition and that we have those features that will show you those benefits that you're looking for. There's always that objection of it's too expensive, right? Always go back to those pain points, to those friction points, to that value prop. Explain them why, defend the cost, and explain them how you're going to fix those problems, how you are going to, remove the friction, remove the pain. But make sure you quantify. Make sure to show this, our feature, our product, our service has this price because this is how we are going to save you time. You do want to log the meeting notes in your CRM, customer relations management platform or software, because you do want to manage the timeline when those things happen. There's 3 ways to, after a meeting, to make a decision. Where's the sales status, right? Nurture, something that you're going to touch probably like once a quarter with some value, right? Something intermediate, they're not ready, right? But, they're waiting for a budget or maybe next month. So you follow up, once a month. And then there's the hot one, immediate, somebody who has the budget, who has an executive power, who has the need. You do want to follow up with them probably weekly or maybe even more often to make sure they sign on the dotted line and they go with the service. Every time you contact your client, you have to add value. Don't hesitate to send gift baskets to your top clients or maybe a top prospect that you feel that you could close a business. That could be a differentiating factor. Org charts are important. Know who reports to who. There are some changes. And I would say one thing that with those accounts that you want to win, find a champion. Who is your champion there? It could be a gatekeeper. It could be a manager, somebody who likes your company, who likes you, somebody who you're going to send that gift, who you're going to take to dinner, somebody who you can trust that they can tell you what's going on. And obviously, there is some confidentialness that you're not asking for that. You're asking something that's shareable, that's public facing, but you need that champion. Identify the champion. You never want to appear desperate. The people sense that, it's a human nature. I don't care if you're in US or in Serbia, you just cannot appear desperate. And you're shooting yourself in the foot. You're not going to sell if you're desperate. The other thing, and it's actually a tactic, you have to be willing to walk away. And they have to sense that. Again, that's piggybacking. It's leaning on that first notion. Don't be desperate. Show them that you can walk away. Hey, we are so confident. We definitely want to work with you guys. But listen, if you say no, we can walk away and we'll put our efforts into somebody who's going to appreciate this. That's what brought them in, right? So you show them that you're not desperate and you show them willingness to walk away. That's actually a sales tactic. You cannot ask very confidential questions right away. You have to earn trust. Yeah. But even if you're meeting somebody for the first time, you can still ask very valuable, open-ended questions about their pain, about their previous experience with the client or with the partner, with the vendor. So you definitely, want to concentrate on those open-ended questions and build some trust before you get to some more confidential, questions like what is the budget. People appreciate that because when you ask them, they're like, okay, this person cares. They're not here just to pitch and to just drive their agenda. They're here to understand what's going on with my organization, what's going on with my position, what are my problems, and how they're going to solve it. there's a whole science of how to ask a very good question, very targeted, open-ended question. So think about those. I think you should, before every presentation, you should have like, what are 2 or 3 questions that I want to ask them before I even, get a little bit more information. You have to feel like confidently and empirically that you are solving the problem for your client. You have to feel like you're the one that knows the most about that topic, right? So you got to start with that knowledge. You're utmost expert in that certain field, or your company is, and your team is, and then really go. I'm not really selling you. I'm making your life easier, right? I'm consulting you. You have to have a sound product, but then it's those little things, down to a science, who are those personal relationships. You want to find those people that have technical skill set, but they also have those people soft skills that we would say.
Is there any particular state or region that you would recommend as like something to start with, with yourself knowing, what kind of mentality folks here have and what kind of mentality folks in the various regions of the US have?
If you would ask me to pinpoint, one region that would be most probably aligned with our mentality, but you would still have a purchasing power, I probably will say Florida, Miami, where we met, right? And I really like Miami for a few reasons. Texas is also great. People don't understand. Texas is an economical powerhouse, right? It has a massive GDP. California is still, when you look at the GDP, top 10 GDPs in the world, right? I think it's still 9. But if you would ask me where the sales cycle might be a little shorter, where the mentality will be a little bit closer to Serbian, I would probably say Florida and Miami.
Do you have a recommendation of where folks should start from? Should they go after super small businesses? Should they go for middle businesses?
It's such a competitive market. You have to have a tremendous product experience selling to enterprise. I would definitely suggest if you're going after enterprise, have a partner. Have somebody who is already inside and figure out with them some kind of partnership, some kind of reselling method, a margin that they are going to position you inside, right? And not just for a referral fee, but educate them, right? It's going to be hard to sell to the enterprise account, just directly, right? So when you're selling B2B, we were talking about that, you can sell direct, but you can sell through the channel.